49ers and Eagles working to finalize a trade that will send edge rusher Bryce Huff to San Francisco for a mid-round pick. Imagine that's going to be a 5th, probably a 6th round pick there. The trade cannot and would not be processed until after June 1st. Both sides are working to make it happen. Huff already has reworked his contract to help facilitate the trade. In San Francisco, Huff will be reunited with 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Salah, his former head coach with the Jets. And then a little from Schefter on the financial side of the deal. Before the trade can get finalized next week, Eagles restructured Huff's contract this week. He was set to make $17 million fully guaranteed, but the Eagles now will take on only about $9 million in salary, leaving the Niners responsible for the remaining $7.95 million due to Huff this season. As mentioned, this is now the 3rd move just this week the Niners have made in a Robert Salah reunion. Bryce Huff, the Niners signed punter Thomas Morstead earlier in the week, and they signed linebacker Chaz Surratt earlier in the week as well. All played for Robert Salah when he was the head coach of the New York Jets. So it's clear Salah's kind of getting his guys in here. And look, when Huff was with Salah back in 2023 with New York, he enjoyed a career season, which was the reason he got paid in the first place by the Philadelphia Eagles. So makes a lot of sense for a team like the Niners, who obviously have a need along that defensive line, have really reshaped that entire defense this offseason to bring in a guy who just a couple of years ago had a double-digit sack season. Some more here from Field Yates on some of the financials of this move, because of course Huff was just signed by the Eagles last offseason to a big deal. So how is the money all going to work out here? The Eagles declined Bryce Huff's $15.58 million fully guaranteed option bonus, which turned it into base salary. Philadelphia then turned $9 million of that base salary into a signing bonus, allowing San Francisco to take on the remaining money of about $7.95 million. In sum, the Eagles save about $7.95 in cash, great north of $50 million in cap space. San Francisco will inherit the final 2 years of Huff's deal, so this year and next season, Huff will be under contract, so it's not just a one-year rental. He will be in San Francisco if they want him to for the next 2 seasons, owing him $7.95 in cap and cash for this season. Before we break down some more of Bryce Huff's game and what exactly he'll bring here to San Francisco and more on why they made this move, let me know your one-word reaction to the 49ers trading for Bryce Huff down in the comments section. So in 2024, Huff was definitely rather disappointing for the Eagles. You know, they gave him that big 3-year, $51 million deal when he was coming off of a great year with New York, thinking he was going to really add to that pass rush rotation. But from the jump, he didn't get a lot of love from their defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, in training camp, played deep into preseason games, wasn't really getting that scheme of that 3-4 over there in Philadelphia. And into the season, only had 182 pass rush snaps, 17 hurries, 20 pressures, 2.5 sacks, and the PFF numbers aren't horrible, but it's not what you're looking for when you're paying a guy $17 million. You expect greater production and just even an ability to get on the field more, because Huff wasn't even active for the Super Bowl for Philadelphia. Now, the reason he got that big deal was his 2023 season. And again, this was under Robert Salah. So this gives you maybe a little more confidence if you're the 49ers that he can replicate some of this production in a scheme that you think is more conducive to his success and his skill set. In that season, in 2023, a 79.7 PFF grade, that was 33 among 197th edge rushers, an 86.8 pass rush grade, that was 11th, run defense 48, not his specialty at all, but 10 sacks, 67 pressures, top 15 in pressures in the NFL, while he was just 56th in pass rush snaps. So although he didn't play a whole lot, he had a lot of production when he was out there. And look, clearly you can see the fall off in all the numbers across the board, right? Sacks down from 10 to 2.5. TFLs down from 10 to 3. QB hits down from 21 to 4. But I think maybe you're hoping if you're the Niners, you can get something in between these 2 seasons where maybe he won't be a double-digit sack guy, but can he get you 7, 8 sacks and still produce when he is out there in a rotation? I think it's certainly possible. And it makes a lot of sense for San Francisco, who they have really prioritized improving this D-line and improving this defense as a whole that was just so disappointing last season. They obviously went into the draft, took a bunch of rookies along that defensive line, and now bringing in a player like Bryce Huff, who still a young player as well in his own right, who has a chance at least to make an impact on this rotation. You obviously have Nick Bosa. He's the stud. He's the guy. But how do you surround him with talent to the point where it's not all on him, where it's not like if Nick Bosa isn't doing something, then you got absolutely nothing going on? You have the rookies you drafted, of course, and Mykhi Williams in the first round, Alfred Collins, CJ West as well. You still have your Turgros Matos in the roster, but now you bring in someone like Bryce Huff, where, look, if Mykhi Williams maybe isn't ready right away, or if you think he's just more of a run stopper off the bat, as really all three of these rookies project to be great run defenders, maybe not great pass rushers right away, maybe you can run a sort of rotation where you have Bryce Huff on obvious pass rushing downs, and then you ease in some of these other guys like a Mykhi Williams in some more obvious early downs, run stopping downs, to get you into those third and longs, where you can tee off someone like Bryce Huff to get after the quarterback. I think all these moves are really just so big for Nick Bosa in particular, because he's just never really had that stud pass rusher on the opposite side, right? You go back to players like, D Ford, and they obviously tried out, your Turgros Matos this year. They tried out Leonard Floyd last year. Like, they've tried to cycle in some of these edge rushers, but they've never really been able to find that piece. And especially last season, Nick Bosa's been relatively healthy ever since that 2020 season where he missed the entire year. But when he's not on the field, especially last year, this Niners pass rush was awful. This Niners run D was awful. So I like the moves that they're making now to really raise the floor of the defensive line with these rookies that are all projecting to be great run defenders, but also raise the ceiling a little bit now with the idea of bringing in a guy like Bryce Huff, who, is a little costly for what the production has been so far. But if you can get that 10-sack season out of him that he had back in 2023 with the Jets, you could be getting maybe a near Pro Bowl caliber type of edge rusher if you can unlock everything. With the Eagles, he was running a system where he wasn't really comfortable, right? He was asked to be a stand-up edge rusher in a 3-4, when with the Jets, he was more of a hand in the dirt, rush off the edge kind of guy. And in this wide 9 system where you can have that hand in the dirt and come screaming off the edge, I think that can help him become more successful. So I understand why the Niners, again, making this move, not going to cost you a lot in terms of a trade, only about a late day 3 pick, and obviously going to pay him a little bit of money. But again, for a team that really doesn't have a lot going on at that edge rusher spot, I think taking a shot at this kind of upside and this kind of talent does make a whole lot of sense. So Bryce Huff, the newest member of the San Francisco 49ers. Again, this will be finalized in the next couple of days.
NFL Live, he says the Niners and the Eagles are working to finalize a trade that will send edge rusher Bryce Huff to San Francisco for a mid-round pick. This trade cannot and would not be processed until after June 1st, but both sides are working to make it happen. And Huff has already reworked his contract to facilitate the trade. So, Mina, he had been signed to a 3-year, $51 million deal to replace Hassan Reddick, but that was a disappointing season in 2024. What do you make of this trade?
I think it makes sense for both sides. From Philadelphia's standpoint, this is more of a salary dump. They're getting some cap relief from this. And I think he just wasn't a good scheme fit for them, for Vic Fangio's defense, which is why he really didn't see the field that much. And then for San Francisco, he's reunited with Robert Salah, who got his best play out of him in New York. And again, for that 4-down defense, it makes a lot more sense. You can rush him from a wide 9 alignment, which is what Salah likes to do. You can bump your first-round draft pick, Mykhi Williams, inside to help stop the run. There's not going to be as much pressure on him, I think, to be more complete. And so, I think San Francisco gets a little pass rush juice, which they do desperately need.
Yeah, the Salah connection, great point there for the Niners' favorite to win the NFC West, according to ESPN Bet.
The Eagles pulled the trigger, and it wasn't a panic move. Bryce Huff is out because the 49ers grabbed him. And while most people rush to judge who won the trade, the true story is what it unlocks for both sides. This was about fixing a fit that never worked. Now, Philly's defense looks lighter, faster, and a lot more in sync with what Vic Fangio actually wants. The Bryce Huff trade is just another chapter, but it says a lot about the direction the Eagles are flying in for 2025. Bryce Huff came to the Eagles riding high. In 2023, he racked up 10 sacks with the Jets and looked like a breakout star. Philadelphia offered him $51 million across 3 years. It was a big promise, so big a check. But what followed was a system clash from week 1. Huff never adapted to Vic Fangio's zone-heavy, calculated scheme. He wasn't asked to just pin his ears back and rush. He had to think, drop, contain, and that's not what he's built for. He played 12 games, had 2.5 sacks, and missed 5 weeks with a wrist injury. And when it mattered the most, deep in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, he didn't see the field. Philly tried to make it work. They rotated him in and kept admiring his motor, but you could see it wasn't working. Given that, the trade is, of course, a course correction. On the other side, San Francisco saw gold. And not just because Huff still has burst and bend. This is personal. Defensive coordinator Robert Salah coached Huff during his early years with the Jets. He knows exactly what buttons to push. Unlike Fangio, Salah runs an attacking front-loaded defense that lets edge rushers go wild. Huff won't have to read zones or shadow backs. He'll be told to beat his man and collapse the pocket. And with Nick Bosa already drawing double teams, Huff is walking into a tailor-made role. The 49ers didn't spend too much either. A mid-round pick and $7.95 million for 2025. That's value, especially for a team still chasing that one piece to get over the hump. By letting go of Huff, the Eagles removed a mismatch and freed up serious space. As of June 1st, 2025, Philly cleared over $6.4 million thanks to post-June first cuts of Darius Slay and James Bradbury. Add in Brandon Graham's retirement and the savings from Huff's contract, and now the team sits with around $32 million in cap space. That's plenty of breathing room to extend core players or make another splash before training camp. General Manager Howie Roseman has kept the books clean, and this trade gives him even more flexibility. It's not about the money, but clarity. The Eagles don't want half fits. Practically, they need players who suit Fangio's style. And letting Huff go proves they're finally ready to form a defense that thinks and hits like the scheme demands. Well, now the next question is obvious. Who steps into the role? According to insiders, you should keep an eye on Nolan Smith. He was quiet last season, but he fits Fangio's requirements better. He's disciplined, athletic, and can set the edge. Expect him to get more snaps and responsibilities in year 2. Then there's Zack Baun. He's been a solid fit during OTAs. Versatile, smart, and willing to play special teams, exactly the kind of player Fangio leans on. It's also worth noting that young defensive linemen like Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are maturing fast. With better edge containment, the interior duo can finally wreck pockets like they're built to do. This year's draft didn't make headlines, but it might make the difference. Jahad Campbell at linebacker could be a steal. He's explosive, instinctive, and thrives in complex looks. Vic Fangio loves that kind of tool set. Safety Andrew Makuba, taken in the 2nd round, might get early reps as well. The Eagles need someone reliable on the back end now that CJ Gardner-Johnson's gone to Houston. And then there's Kyle McCord, the quarterback, picked in round 6. No, he's not here to challenge Jalen Hurts, but he's a smart insurance plan and a developmental passer who's already turning heads in camp. While the defense is reloading, the offense is reshaping. Kellen Moore is gone. Kevin Patullo takes over as offensive coordinator. And seemingly, his plan is to keep Jalen Hurts upright, feed Saquon Barkley, and hit with play-action deep shots. The offensive line remains one of the best in football. Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson are healthy. Jason Kelsey's replacement, Cam Jurgens, is settling in fast. On the other hand, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are still one of the best WR duos in the league. Add tight end Dallas Goedert to the mix, and the only question is consistency. So yes, Bryce Huff is gone, but it's no meltdown, but a measured and smart call. Huff gets a second chance in a scheme that fits, while the Eagles clean up their cap and finally move toward roster clarity. They've got flexibility, young talent, and a quarterback who still believes the window is wide open. If you're riding with the Eagles this season, drop your predictions in the comments.